Okay, go.
Good morning. Thank you for watching my videos, and I got a very special one for you today. I started in St. Louis yesterday at dark 30. That would be 3:30 in the morning after working 2 split shifts the night before. Got no sleep, jumped on a plane,
Go.
and we're back. Got a nice, wonderful birthday call from my mom's great grandkids and a new 2-month-old and my niece and her husband, and that was pretty cool. They're hopefully get to see them before I leave. I get to do a video around my parents' house. They have been in this house 30 plus years to my knowledge, and it is a beautiful yard. They are supposed to be retired, but haven't really quite figured out what that term means. They enjoy doing yard work thanks to my mom's mom, who we call Gigi, passed on the green thumb to myself and other grandchildren, and we get to show the results of their handiwork.
Go.
For those that have never been to small towns in Oregon, or Oregon in general, it is very green, it is very windy, and it gets very wet. We have proof of the windy if you look over my right shoulder and see this wonderful, beautiful flag in my parents' front yard that my cousin has actually donated his time to replace, and is very sturdy and has stood the test of time.
Go.
As we walk this way, this is a beautiful 3 birch trees that were planted in their yard 30 years ago when they moved into this house. There was a major ice storm that came through in January of this year, and they don't think it's going to last another winter, but they're definitely going to enjoy it while they still have it. Behind that tree, next to the house in the driveway, is a maple tree that was planted at the same time 30 years ago. It is going strong as far as I know, and that will stick around for a little bit longer. As we continue around my parents' beautiful yard, we will point out the other things along the way that they have planted and been around as long, or perhaps longer. And if I forget something, my mom behind the camera will be happy to correct me. As we proceed along here, you see a retaining wall that are made from railroad ties, and I'm relieved that my parents, along with other family members, helped along the way. As you can also see, we have no fences. This is a very beautiful neighborhood that everyone along the creek bed that everyone lives at help out other neighbors with their yard work, and so they can show it off, and there's no really any barriers, so that everyone can enjoy the beautiful landscape. The bushes on my right are
Rhodes.
Rhodies. They've been around the same amount of time. Just blooming. I mean, they have harsh winters and rain just like everybody else, but they are tough and have stood the test of time. The pink ones are
Lace cap.
lace cap,
Hydrangeas.
and they smell wonderful.
Yeah.
And as you can see, it is fall. Plenty of leaves to rake up later. I'm volunteering my services, just to FYI. Thinking back to my childhood when my grandma took me by the hand at 10 years old and taught me how to appreciate the things we've been given and to help out in the yard where we best can. And to me, I don't see it as work. I saw it as therapeutic, fun, hanging out with grandma and learning something along the way.
Best teacher.
Yes. In our backyard, or should I say their backyard, I still consider myself family, but this is a small leftover orchard. They used to have 6, but if you see, there are a few missing. Starting from what you're looking at the apple trees,
And
then the cherry tree, and in the distance, you will see the pear tree. There are a couple missing because nature has to happen. We have beavers, hence the Oregon State Beavers mascot, came up from the creek and decided to help with the trimming of the trees, and the fruit was for them to eat And the trees, along with the trees down the creek bed, help to build their nest in other living dogs. Continue on in their backyard of a half acre, you will see the lovely grass that they have kept up over the years and stood the test of time. Then you will look and see in the background their vegetable garden, and they are definitely FYIers, or DYIers, I'm sorry. DYIers, do it yourself.
DIY.
DIY, yes, do it yourself. And they have planted the garden themselves since they've been retired. They've planted it. As we continue on, we are looking at the back end of their property down to the creek part of their property, and everyone enjoys the beauty and the sounds. You can hear it in the background, a little bit of rustling, but they haven't had rain here since June, and it's been a while, but when it's full, it is roaring. You can hear it all day long, and it's beautiful now. But right now it is pretty low, but it's normal. I've been told for summertime into fall, but it will bring back up, and they have wonderful visitors that come up with their family. I here, they just wander through the neighborhood and just hang out in their backyard, and each year they just bring along their offspring and just to show off.
Okay.
We are now at the back of the property at the creek level, and what you are seeing here are what is called riprap, and it was put in to design for keeping when the creek gets high and eroding the land so that the creek doesn't end up in their backyards. From the riprap, we are continuing on towards the creek on the back of the property. It is normal summer, fall, low level because of lack of rain, but it has gotten as high as the middle of the video. You see a big tree and a skinny tree in front of it. It has come as that high and that close to the property, hence the railroad ties barrier and the riprap, which were put in by the previous owners or suggested to keep the tranquility and beautiful artwork of the land.
That's a clematis. Clematis bench. Now this, I was just told, is the exciting part, and I never knew this whole time. We are now looking at the garden lined raspberry bushes that apparently have a very long history. Over 50 years ago, that's 50, they started in a Beaver Creek Lodge in Northern California, small town. Some very dear friends of ours that we used to stay with all the time. I learned the square dance at 9 years old, and I didn't realize this now, I just found out. They started in their garden, brought to a small town in Southern Oregon where I grew up in. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional because this is really cool. My dad always lined the gardens that we had, vegetable gardens, with these bushes. I always thought they were brand new, every garden that we had, but apparently not. So they started in the small town I grew up in, moved because my dad's telephone company moved them up to a small town outside of Portland. They moved with them. Then they were brought back here to the small town they're in, and they've been here 30 years. These bushes were trimmed by the deer that they live out now, but just to show you how nature works, there are actually a couple of leftovers right there the deer didn't get, but this just goes to show you how much we need to learn to appreciate nature in general, how much they withstand every type of weather, and with a little TLC, you too could probably have a garden like this. This is just, I'm getting emotional just realizing the history of this little section, because we've always had the garden with the raspberry trees lining it, and I never knew the history behind it. Go. Now, I get to present, that I mentioned earlier, they are do-it-yourselfers, have been since they retired, still haven't figured out the concept of being retired, but they gotta eat. So, Dad, in his infinite wisdom, decided a big, large, normal garden that I'm used to growing up was a little too much for just the two of them to handle. So they started, my dad built these raised flower beds, or vegetable beds, and it's a lot easier for him to handle. He takes the rototiller every year. Again, take care of your stuff, they're gonna take care of you. My grandma bought him a Troy-built rototiller when I was probably in middle school, and been moved with them. He just mows it over and starts over fresh every year. Starting right here, what they have here are tomatoes on both sides, both cherry tomatoes, and if they're anything like what I saw earlier, cherry tomatoes aren't as small as people think, they're big. And then the big tomatoes are canned every year, which I will show later in the video. As we proceed along here, we have, she plants the cucumber and squash here. Back here is where they plant the green beans. Off to your right, as you can see the leftovers. My mom started, I don't know how long ago, but planting pumpkins, and she's had all shapes and sizes. They, whichever ones survive the deer that come off the creek, they put and decorate on the front porch. In front of there are the, cucumbers, or I'm sorry, broccoli and cauliflower, which are my top two favorite vegetables of all time. And then last but not least, with the purple background, what you call it, is irises, pretty flowers. And I will insert pictures of what my dad has done to keep the deer, besides the deer off and spray it every year. He built these pipes. Pipes with mesh over the top, and that keeps the deer out for the most of the year. And then when they're done pulling up what they need, they let the deer come in and take the rest. And then when they're got a full belly, they'll pit stop and have a little nap, and then bring their offspring. And then when it's time to go, the mom will stand on the end of the creek, stomp her foot, and say, "Let's go." And here we have, last but certainly not least, a portion of the garden that lines it. It's grapevines. Whatever was left over after the deer pick at it, they take in and have at it. This rock was given from my mom to my dad, because back in the day we had CBs, for those of you that are familiar with those. Those are radios before they had cell phones, that you can communicate from a baseline and to how many vehicles you want to put in them, and we all adopted nicknames. My dad was Hugger Bear. Mom, it was her favorite Disney character of all time, Lady Pooh Bear. Mine was Bionic Bear because the $6 million man was big at that time, so I adopted that. My younger brother was Baby Bear, and of course, Grandma was Grandma Bear. So my mom bought this for my dad, and it's been here for a while. And then if you go along, follow me along here, the grapevines, you'll see a sign that they had planted, because in our family, everybody's welcome. what we have here along the edge of the garden and along my dad's garden shed and mom's garden shed are what were left over from sunflowers. You can see a few petals that are still left, just the color, and when they're fully blown, I'll try to see if I can bring up some pictures to show you them full blown. It just has wonderful colors.
And the bees.
And the bees, because it helps out. Everybody works together. The bees come in and pollinate, make it nice, bright colors, and help them. Now we are on their back porch, panning to your right. We are looking at
Don't forget the clematis.
clematis.
Yeah.
Little fuzz balls they look like from a distance, but they are soft. Okay. They bloom all year round apparently. They survive. And then panning to your right, you're looking at, for those that are not knowledgeable like myself, lattice. And then the top part is called pergola. I kept calling it a gazebo, but that was incorrect. But what is missing is what brings it all together, in my opinion, wisteria. And they've been replanted, so hopefully in the spring I will show you pictures of that. And then as you look above you, they have a string of lights to help decorate for the upcoming season. And this adds to the whole ambiance and beauty of what my dad has built, and along with, I'm sure, with other family members, added after the house was built.